Nashville.
Israeli troops have invaded Lebanon. They're fighting the Palestinians and, according to the Syrians, Syrian troops as well.
This is NBC Nightly News. Reporting from New York, Jessica Savage.
Good evening, and here is the Mideast situation as we know it tonight. Israel has invaded Lebanon on 3 fronts. The Israelis say they are trying to clear out PLO strongholds within 25 miles of the Israeli border. This invasion breaks the 11-month-old Mideast ceasefire. And tonight, Syrian troops have started fighting the Israelis in eastern Lebanon as well. NBC News correspondent Vic Aiken is on the Lebanese border.
Israeli armored columns struck in 3 coordinated drives supported by a heavy artillery barrage. One army group moved straight up the Lebanese coast toward the Palestinian town of Tyre. A second group knifed through the foothills of the Golan Heights, and a third force hit out toward Beaufort Castle and the Nabatea area, both Palestinian strongholds. The castle, a 12th century Crusader fortress, has been under almost constant air and artillery attack. The Israeli barrage has taken its toll in Palestinian villages and towns around the castle. Civilians as well as Palestinian fighters were killed. In some places, Israeli troops were greeted with white flags. Israeli troops. The use of such heavy weapons by the Israelis indicates that they expect tough resistance in some areas. One Israeli soldier told me, if the Palestinians have nowhere to run, they will have to fight or be killed. Vic Aiken, NBC News on the Israeli-Lebanese border.
United Nations peacekeeping forces were overrun by the invading Israelis today. A Norwegian soldier was killed in the crossfire between the Israelis and the Palestinians. In Lebanon, NBC News correspondent Steve Mallory watched the Israeli bombardment.
It's 6 a.m. in southern Lebanon, near the coast. The Israelis pound several areas. An hour later in Nabatea, very few people dare to leave their homes. Palestinian positions ring the area, and many guerrillas live here. Families wait indoors, knowing the bombs will soon fall here. Bombs, rockets, artillery. Anti-aircraft fire is intense. An Israeli jet is downed, apparently by a shoulder-fired heat-seeking missile. The pilot was captured. Shortly after midday, bombs and artillery rained throughout southern Lebanon. Cover fire for a 3-pronged invasion the Israelis launch against Palestinian guerrillas. Civilians have been packing for days and crowd the coastal highway, fleeing to safer areas. Israeli gunboats shelled the coast, hitting the Arab-American oil company's refinery at Zahrani. The Israelis attempted a seaborne landing here, but were beaten back. The Palestinians also said the fighting has been the most intense ever seen here. The Lebanese casualties are in the hundreds and climbing. The United States ambassador, with a heavy military escort, rushed to meet the Lebanese government officials in Beirut. The Lebanese rushed to stores and gas stations to stock up before there are shortages. Palestinian guerrillas race supplies and reinforcements south before the roads are cut. They're not winning this war, they say defiantly. Begin is losing it. Steve Mallory, NBC News, Beirut.
A PLO spokesman says 600 Palestinians and Lebanese have been killed so far, and that another 1,000 or more have been wounded. No word on how many Israelis have been killed, but funerals started today for soldiers killed early in the fighting. Here is Paul Miller in Tel Aviv.
Ori Belansky was buried today. The 20-year-old Israeli soldier died in a Palestinian rocket attack on North Israel. It was attacks on the area called Galilee, as much as the shooting of Israel's ambassador to England, that prompted the cabinet to order the invasion, codenamed Operation Peace for Galilee.
The cabinet took the following decision: to instruct the Israel Defense Forces to place all civilian population of the Galilee beyond the range of the terrorists' fire from Lebanon, where their bases and their headquarters are concentrated.
The military men who attended today's cabinet meeting knew how to accomplish that objective. A military statement later said the Israelis were on search and destroy missions against Palestinian positions that had fired rockets into Galilee. Israel had hoped to avoid any fighting with the Syrian peacekeeping army in Lebanon, but Israeli television reported exchanges of artillery fire with the Syrians. Israel's biggest risk in this invasion was that the Syrians would get involved. It had tried to avoid that involvement by declaring that Israel would not attack Syrian troops unless attacked first, that Israel had no intention of occupying Lebanese territory, and that its only goal was to end rocket attacks like the one that killed Uri Belansky. Belansky was the first Israeli to die in the current fighting. Dozens more funerals have been held in Lebanon as the result of Israeli air raids. And now that Israel and the Palestinians are at war, there will be many more funerals on both sides. Paul Miller, NBC News, Tel Aviv.
NBC News will present a special one-hour report on the Middle East tonight at 11:30 Eastern Time, and then we will have further details on this escalating crisis right after this.
It's working. Millions of people like you have fallen asleep faster with Unisom, the #1 sleep aid in America. In clinical tests, Unisom helped people feel drowsy, so they fell asleep faster, an average of 23 minutes faster than they did without Unisom, and slept better all night. Unisom, proven in clinical tests and by people like you. For occasional sleeplessness, fall asleep faster and rest assured with Unisom.
Sakes alive, sakes alive. Only Mazda's got a truck for just $58.95.
The Mazda B2000 Sundowner is the lowest priced truck sold in America. Hundreds less than Toyota or Datsun. And comes with standard features they don't even offer on their economy trucks. Sakes alive, Mazda B2000 Sundowner even gets better gas mileage.
Only Mazda's got a truck for just $58.95.
President Reagan has dispatched Special Envoy Philip Habib to Israel, where Habib will attempt to restore a ceasefire in the Middle East, a ceasefire that Habib had arranged 11 months ago. Habib had been summoned to Versailles by President Reagan. White House correspondent John Palmer, who's in Versailles, reports on how the Middle East fighting now has distracted the president from his diplomatic efforts in all of this.
For President Reagan, word of the Israeli drive into Lebanon did not come as any great surprise, but it was a disappointment, especially since the Israeli attack came as the president and the leaders of 6 other industrialized countries were ending their summit conference at Versailles. The president was up late last night, as his aides put it, pulling out all the stops in an effort to halt the renewed fighting, and he sent a letter to Israeli Prime Minister Begin asking him not to press his attack. News of the Israeli action, according to one of the participants at the summit, cast a pall over the entire proceedings. The 7 leaders adopted a resolution calling for a ceasefire on all sides, saying the fighting could have disastrous consequences for the whole area. Special Middle East envoy Philip Habib was summoned to the president's quarters at Versailles to discuss the situation. During the meeting, the president instructed Habib to leave for Israel tonight to press efforts for an end to the fighting. Secretary of State Haig told reporters that Israel has not thus far agreed to a ceasefire.
We are extremely disturbed by the loss of innocent lives in this fighting on the Israeli-Lebanese border. It has involved, as you know, the exchange of artillery and rockets for a prolonged period preceding the Israeli ground penetration.
First, it was the crisis in the Falkland Islands that overshadowed the goings-on at this summit. Now the fighting in Lebanon. And the White House is concerned that both of these problems will continue to stalk the president during the remaining 5 days of his European trip. Tonight, President Reagan and other leaders attended a final dinner in the Hall of Mirrors and then watched a fireworks display over the lake at the end of an economic summit troubled by new fighting in the Middle East. John Palmer, NBC News, with President Reagan at Versailles.
NBC News diplomatic correspondent Marvin Kalb has more on President Reagan's message to Prime Minister Begin. Here's Kalb in Versailles.
The president's letter to Prime Minister Begin contained no threats, no warnings. Indeed, it contained an expression of sympathy for the attempted assassination of the Israeli ambassador in London. But it urged restraint and appeal for calm. And though this kind of presidential diplomatic intervention has worked in the past, it did not work today. Begin, in his response, indicated that Israeli troops intended to complete their mission. The U.S. has been expecting an Israeli move into Lebanon for a long time, and for an equally long time, U.S. officials have been wondering what they would do about it when it finally happened. There was a hint from Secretary of State Haig tonight that if Ambassador Habib fails to persuade Prime Minister Begin to stop his advance and begin his withdrawal, then the U.S. might consider cutting off further American arms deliveries to Israel, might even join others at the UN in condemning Israel as an aggressor in Lebanon. And adding to the president's anxieties tonight is raw intelligence from the Persian Gulf that Iran might carry its war against Iraq to other Arab states, endangering oil supplies to the West and risking a broader conflict throughout the entire Middle East. Marvin Kalb, NBC News, Versailles.
The Iraqi news agency has reported that Syrian troops killed 6 Iraqi soldiers and wounded 6 others in 2 days of attacks across the 2 northern joint borders. The 2 countries have been bitter rivals for years now, and tensions have increased since Syria supported Iran in its war with Iraq. Mideast fighting overshadowed the real purpose of the Versailles summit today as Western leaders struggled to work out their economic differences. Here's Irving R. Levine in Paris.
It was showdown day at Versailles. President Reagan took his seat for the final session, armed with jelly beans, determined to get the other leaders to end low-interest rate credits to the Soviet Union to buy their products. There were hints of prolonged and tough bargaining.
I don't think I should characterize the whole damn argument.
The outcome.
We think we accomplished what we set out to do, to get all the nations here of the West to agree.
The fact is, though, that President Reagan got less than he wanted. He did get the Europeans to agree to limit trade credits to Russia, but the agreement sets no ceiling, has no enforcement mechanism, and is full of loopholes. That's the only way an agreement could be reached. At lunch, the leaders renewed the commitment of previous summits to help poor nations. Then, President Reagan and the others at a wind-up appearance before reporters.
We have the feeling that we have made progress.
As host, only Mitterrand spoke on the summit problems and agreements. Problem, fluctuating currencies depressed by a strong dollar. Agreement, study the matter. Problem, high U.S. interest rates. Agreement, try to reduce rates. Problem, Japan's flood of exports and restrictions on imports. Agreement, to negotiate. Problem, technology that replaces workers. Agreement, study the matter. Problem, unemployment. Agreement, try to provide jobs. Through the final dinner, the biggest accomplishment at the Versailles summit was the papering over of the disagreements among the leaders. No one gave much or got much, and left the world's economic problems pretty much where they were when the meeting began. Irving R. Levine, NBC News at Versailles.
Coming up, troops from the QE2 land on the Falklands. Details next.
Sandy Duncan at the Nabisco Bakers Picnic.
Do it again. We bake our wheat thins thinner. You have to really hit the word thinner. That's important because the thinner the wheat thins, the better the taste. Keep practicing and I'll just keep eating wheat thins one after the other.
We bake our wheat thins thinner. You get a better taste.
Yes!
Wheat Thins crackers. The thinner the wheat thins, the better the taste. From Nabisco.
When we tell you Michelin radials last and last.
That's no surprise.
When we tell you Michelin radials save gas.
That's no surprise.
But when we tell you can get Michelins for about the same price as other leading radials.
Now that's a surprise.
But it's true. We're America's fastest growing tire company. We make the tire you need at a price you can afford. See your Michelin dealer and prices set for your car. You'll be pleasantly surprised. Michelin. We put America on radials.
It's here, Miss Russell.
Oh, a surprise for us from Playtex.
Introducing a beautiful new 18-hour Lovely Look bra that's seamless. Now we full-figured gals can have Lovely Look styling and a smooth, seamless line. And another surprise, cushiony undercup panels that don't show. Plus, the famous 18-hour fabric that stretches for real comfort, real support.
Now, save 20% on new 18-hour Lovely Look seamless bras.
Thanks, Playtex.
Argentine newspapers reported today that Argentine warplanes have carried out more bombing raids on British forces on ridges around Port Stanley and the Falkland Islands. Meanwhile, the British Defense Ministry confirmed that more than 3,000 fresh troops transported on the luxury liner QE2 have gone ashore on the Falklands. Robert Hager reports now from London.
The Queen Elizabeth II left Britain last month with thousands of troops. Today, the government finally revealed those troops went ashore in the Falkland starting a week ago. British reporter Michael Nicholson went with them.
The British push is really on. 4,000 men of the 5th Infantry Brigade have now completed the 2nd Falklands D-Day landing successfully and have already begun their move forward. The men landed in the most appalling conditions: low cloud, high winds, constant freezing, driving rain. They dug themselves into trenches that were filled with water. It would have reminded anybody of British Tommies landing on D-Day in 1944.
The second landing was at the same location as the first, here at San Carlos Bay. But where the first group marched by this northerly route to Stanley, the newly arrived troops advanced by a more southerly route. Amateur film taken in Port Stanley before the war shows Mount Kent just outside town, where the British now hold the high ground. The Argentine lines are said to be in a horseshoe 2 miles out from the edge of Port Stanley. But the British ground commander, Jeremy Moore, says he won't be rushed.
I'm not going to go dashing in there, costing unnecessary lives to our soldiers, by not doing the thing properly and sensibly in a really well-balanced military way.
But that time could be growing close. Robert Hager, NBC News, London.
Secretary of State Haig in Versailles said U.S. support for Britain remained firm, and Mr. Haig made no request to Britain to hold off a final assault against Argentine forces on the Falklands. That despite a clumsy U.S. vote switch at the United Nations on Friday, when the U.S. supported Britain and then announced it had intended to abstain on a ceasefire resolution. Today, one top Reagan official blamed the snafu at the UN on the length of the communication lines from Versailles. More from White House correspondent Andrea Mitchell, who's traveling with the president.
The staunchness of the United
Prime Minister Thatcher said that Anglo-American relations are still excellent.
Relations are friendly, good, and they'll remain that way. So please don't blow it up.
But American officials were still trying to explain. Secretary Haig at a briefing. No lessening of support for Britain. Chief of Staff James Baker on CBS.
And what you saw there, I think, Bill, was simply a communication snafu, and it was unfortunate, but it's one of those things that's going to happen.
Ambassador Kirkpatrick on Meet the Press.
It's not easy, let me say, to try to carry on discussions and make decisions when you're separated by several thousands of miles.
But it took Haig 25 minutes and 2 phone calls from his advisors back home to get him to change his instructions. He missed the vote by 3 minutes. No explanation of what took so long. Tonight, Haig took pains to say that President Reagan had performed well here. Administration officials said it was not an attempt to repair the damage caused by the UN incident. Andrea Mitchell, NBC News, with the president in Versailles.
Coming up, down-to-the-wire efforts to save the Equal Rights Amendment and the Detroit Grand Prix when we return.
Arthritis pain sufferers. Do you know millions of you can take aspirin, even if your stomach is aspirin sensitive, because there's Ecotrin. Look, Ecotrin is not the aspirin substitute. It's aspirin. But Ecotrin helps protect you from aspirin stomach upset with this orange safety coating. Now you can take what doctors recommend most for minor pain, aspirin, but without all aspirin stomach upset. Ecotrin, it's strong. It's orange.
There's your refund. But sometimes you need more than a traveler's check refund.
You say you also would like us to help cancel your lost credit cards.
Yeah.
And you'd like a temporary ID?
right.
Right.
And you'd like us to cash a personal check for $200?
Oh,
Exactly.
Exactly.
Really?
If you want the only traveler's check with 5 services to help protect your vacation, American Express is worth asking for by name.
We should have asked for American Express.
Susan's dog is alive today because his Heart's Flea and Tick collar helped save his life last night. The Heart's 2-in-1 Plus Nighttime Safety Reflecting Color, the first flea and tick killing color that reflects oncoming car headlights to help protect your pet at night. And that same Heart's color protects against fleas and ticks every day, round the clock for 5 months. Get your dog or cat the Heart's 2-in-1 Plus Nighttime Safety Reflecting Color. Now the famous Heart's Flea and Tick Killer can be a lifesaver too.
If the Equal Rights Amendment doesn't gain ratification in 3 more states within the next 24 days, it will die. Today, ERA supporters kicked off the final push for ratification. In Tallahassee, Florida, it was the biggest ERA rally ever, as Shauna Singletary reports.
In Tallahassee, the show of support for the ERA came from more than 8,000 people. It was aimed at 40 state senators. The message? Pass the ERA this time or look for another job in November.
We know who they are who are not voting for the Equal Rights Amendment, and we are going to target their races. That is as simple as it is. If they support us, we will support them.
Florida Governor Bob Graham, an ERA supporter, led the march to the Capitol building. Other supporters walking in the 90-degree heat came from 10 other states, as far away as California.
I came from Massachusetts because I felt that the people down here needed all the help they could get.
The ERA will go to the Florida Senate in 2 weeks, and many of these ERA supporters plan to watch the vote. Shauna Singletary, NBC News, Tallahassee.
ERA rallies were also held in North Carolina, in Oklahoma, and in Illinois. In Detroit, Michigan today, it was a study in contrasts as the first International Detroit Grand Prix auto race got underway. The foreign-made machines tore through downtown Detroit, the auto capital of the United States, now suffering devastating unemployment. Roger O'Neill has this report.
It could have been Monte Carlo or Monaco, the screaming engines of Formula One racing cars more familiar there. But the sounds today came from Detroit, a factory town with 14% of its people out of work. The Detroit Grand Prix was a study in contrast, from an exclusive $3,500 price tag for a private party.
Excuse me, gentlemen, this is a private party. You're going to have to head downstairs.
To window seats in office buildings that cost nothing. Grandstand seats cost up to $65. Just to walk around costs $15. $12 t-shirts, $2 for a Coke. From people sipping champagne to people trying to hold on to a beer. It was strictly a foreign-made event. All the cars, all but one driver. But it was an event. And even the librarians in town for a convention liked it.
It's very exciting.
It's very different from a library meeting that we're coming to.
John Watson of Great Britain won the race, stopped after the 2-hour time limit expired. Detroit gambled that it could improve its image as a world-class city with a world-class car race. And while it put on a shining display, the reality of Detroit as a city in the midst of a deep recession remains. Roger O'Neill, NBC News, Detroit.
June 6, 1944, D-Day. The First Lady and the nation remembers. Next.
Hello. I was a dedicated blade shaver till my wife bought me this Remington microscreen shaver because it would shave as close as a blade or your money back. The first microscreen is so thin it shaves incredibly close. The second even closer. And Remington's American made. It costs less. Norelco's imported. It costs much more. I was so impressed, I bought the company. The Remington microscreen shaves as close as a blade, or I'll give you your money back. And the Lady Remington, the perfect gift, also with a money-back guarantee.
I refinished this beautiful piece all by myself, and I can't even change a light bulb.
A pro wanted $300 to refinish this. I did it myself for $15.
Formby's furniture refinisher can make a believer out of you because it works unlike anything you've ever seen. It dissolves old varnish lacquer shellac without stripping, sanding, or scraping. With my furniture refinisher, it's a pleasure to create a treasure.
Homer Formby. No one knows wood as good.
Look for special values on my introduction to refinishing kit.
Speed and distance.
We've challenged them and won. But air travel means air traffic. So Bendix developed an MLS landing system. Multi-lane highways in the sky that help planes land sooner, saving time and fuel. Ingenuity is what makes good ideas fly and land. Bendix, the power of ingenuity.
And finally tonight, it was 38 years ago that this day, June 6th, became known as D-Day. Back in 1944, thousands of Allied soldiers became heroes or died trying to establish the Omaha Beach stronghold in France, a landing that began the World War II liberation of Europe. Today, on that windswept beach, First Lady Nancy Reagan and others remembered D-Day.
Nancy Reagan came to Normandy to share in a very special relationship between French and Americans, between the young who have heard the stories and the old who still tell them because they will never forget. They saw it. They made it happen. And they will never escape the memory. It can never be ignored. Mrs. Reagan came here today to silently remember with them.
If my husband were here today, he would tell you how we can best ensure that other men on other beaches and other fields will not have to die. Well, to the boys who rest beneath the crosses and stars on Peaceful Cliff, those words still hold true. To the gallant young men who gave their lives here, let me say that the eyes of the world are still upon you.
Emery King, NBC News at Omaha Beach on the coast of Normandy.
And that's our report tonight. Tom Brokaw and Roger Mudd will report tomorrow. I'm Jessica Savage. From New York, thank you, and good night from all of us at NBC News.
Sunday.
I go where you go.
Nothing's permanent. Murphy puts Will up for adoption. Then it's Chips, the hottest team in town, and whatever the problem, they can handle it.
An NBC report, the Middle East, Israel strikes back. John Hart updates the end of the ceasefire and the escalation of hostilities. Later tonight after local news.
Yuck, I told you to use Fruit Fresh. Your preserved peaches look spoiled.
Oh, I forgot.
Well, what's Fruit Fresh? Fruit Fresh is for canning, freezing, and serving fresh fruit. Its exclusive formula locks in freshness. Look, your peach brown and yucky. Mine with Fruit Fresh, fresh and yummy.
Your mom's peaches taste delicious.
Fruit Fresh on fruit salad prevents browning. Works when freezing fruit, too.
Keep fruit deliciously fresh with Fruit Fresh.
Hello, Nashville. It's Channel 4 Chicken Night with the Nashville Sounds. Watch the wild antics of the San Diego Chicken, Tuesday, June 8th, when the Sounds play the Memphis Chicks at Greer Stadium. Tickets can be purchased at the stadium box office. That's Channel 4 Chicken Night, Tuesday.